Tonight, my darklings, the news and the questions can wait. Usually, this is where we open the Paranormal 60 mailbag of the macabre. Hear your stories, wrestle with your questions, and try to make sense of the strange things happening in your lives. But tonight, the strange came looking for one of our own. Scotty Davis has spent his career in law enforcement, a trained observer, accustomed to keeping his head when something unexpected happens. He's also no stranger to this show or to conversations about the unexplained. But recently, Scott wasn't discussing someone else's encounter. He was having one, and he wasn't alone. A friend, a fellow officer, was there when something extraordinary occurred. A strange set of lights, an even stranger portal, time lapses, an experience unlike any either of them could easily explain. Tonight, Scotty Davis returns to tell us exactly what happened, what they witnessed, and how an encounter has permanently changed the way he looks at the world around him. Because tonight, we're going beyond the badge for a close encounter. And after what Scott is about to share, nothing may ever look quite the same again.
I'm not gonna stand here and listen to this baloney.
You won't know. He doesn't stand for baloney.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me.
Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
Good evening and welcome, my darklings. We are here and I'm broadcasting live from the confines of the haunted Palmer House Hotel, Restaurant, and Pub. The pub is hopping. There are fives of people in there drinking and listening to music. They don't even know what's going on out here, but we do. We are the informed. And tonight it's going to be a little interesting. All of our boys from the news were spread out across the United States, literally dealing with different things and unable to join me this evening. I put out a call to Scotty and Sarah. Sarah is tied up doing teaching, whatever. And Scotty said, Dave, I have a story I think it's time I share with you. And I said, okay, Scotty, what's it about? And he goes, let's talk about it on the show. So here we are. He gave me a couple little nuggets, as I just talked about, but now he's here to share the rest with us. But as a fair warning, Scotty, I won't stand for supernatural baloney.
Oh, man. I love bologna, though.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't love a good bologna sandwich? Am I right?
I'll even take a relatively medium good bologna sandwich.
All right. You put cheese on your bologna sandwich, Dave?
Listen, buddy, I don't want to start getting too personal into my life right now.
All right.
This show's about you, Scotty.
Sorry. Well, I want to know what you want when you come over,
Hey, baloney. Let's dive right in, buddy. Obviously, when you're on, usually we're answering emails. We're sharing stories from our listeners around the world.
Mm-hmm.
This is unique in the pantheon of strange experiences you've had up to this point in your life. Where do you rate this experience?
It kind of broke reality for me. So, number one, I think.
Number one.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, man.
This is important for people to realize too. And I play up the fact that it's between two police officers. You guys were not on duty. You weren't working that night.
No.
But I really want people to get the scope of what took place, because these two individuals are police officers.
Yep.
They did witness something together, and as trained professionals who are here to observe and understand, this was a shared experience. So I think that's an important element to this story. We've talked about a lot of things, from shadowy figures to aliens to cryptid creatures. You've always been so open and let's rush right in. And I'd go in and check it out. And now you've had kind of that mind-bending experience.
Yep.
I'm a little worried, if I'm being honest, Scotty, because since the last time I spoke to you after this experience, suddenly you've got a goatee. You've got the sinister white peaks like I've got at the bottom. I feel like maybe I'm looking at the mirror universe version of Scotty the Medium.
Dave, I told all my friends on TikTok when I came back and started doing my lives. They just accepted it was me with a beard, and I was like, "How do you guys know that I'm just not the evil Scott from a different universe, and you're
Right.
just accepting me?" It's exactly what I said.
Yeah, see? Well, I'm keeping an eye on you, pal.
You should,
Don't slip up. I know all the secrets.
because I'm not gonna lie to you, Dave. I feel as though I have shifted timelines, and it started around this experience. So you and I have talked briefly about UFOs and those kinds of things. And up until a couple of months ago, I had never seen anything in the sky that I couldn't just be like, that's a satellite, that's a star, comet, whatever, like a airplane, helicopter, right? Then what happened a couple years ago right here where I live in New Jersey, we had the drones flying over. I had them literally like flying over my house. So I know what they look like up close. So what I experienced a couple weeks ago wasn't drones, airplanes, helicopters. It wasn't anything like that. Okay. So to start this off, my buddy Chris, who is a police officer, he's a really great guy, and he's also a paranormal investigator. So a long time ago, Chris told me that he could summon UFOs. And this was after he and I had been on some investigations together, and we were kind of like confiding, as you make a friendship, you talk more deeply about some interesting things. So um, I said to him, like, I would probably not give as many people this much grace, but I was like, "Can you, Chris?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm telling you, I can. I can call them." And I was like, "Okay, buddy." Right. So like, sure. So I tuck that away and I kind of forget about it. And fast forward to I guess the beginning of June, and Chris and I are going out to Pennsylvania to this thing called the Creep It Real Festival. It's a lot of fun. It's this thing they put on out there. So I'm not going to bore you with the boring stuff. We go to the Paracon in the morning. In the evening time, Chris, myself, and this guy Sean and his family, which is his wife and 17-year-old daughter, they're staying at a B&B with us out in like the middle of Podunk, Pennsylvania. So we're all in this B&B. It's nighttime, and we're getting ready. We have to get up early in the morning for this Paracon. But Chris is like, "Hey, let's go outside in the backyard. It's a really clear night, and why don't I show you guys how I can summon UFOs?" So it's kind of late. It's got to be like midnight, 12:30 or so. And me and Sean are like, "All right, I guess so." So Sean is an Army veteran, and he is a social worker. He's also very trustworthy of things that he witnesses. So the three of us go out onto the back deck, and it's a beautiful, crystal clear night. We can see some airplanes going around the horizon. And Chris goes, "Okay, watch this." And he points to a star and he says, "You see the really bright one right there?" And Sean and I are like, "Yep, we're all looking at the same thing." And he goes, "Watch this. To the right of it, two orbs are going to show up and fly across the sky." And we're like, "Okay." And I'm not kidding. Within seconds, these orbs just materialize and then they glide across the sky. And then Chris is like, "Okay, watch this." And he points to a different quadrant in the sky and he goes, "There's going to be one over there." And then one shows up. And then all night long, and then he'll say things like, "Okay, you see that one right there? That one's going to split into two and then three." And it would just do it. And then he had a little laser pointer, like a little one that you can get at Walmart probably. And he goes, "Watch this," because he says he's done this a million times. And the UFOs or whatever these things are in the sky, they interact with the laser. So Chris takes the laser and he says, "You see that one right there?" And he points to one that we can see traveling across the sky. He points the laser at it, and seemingly this orb goes around the laser beam as if to avoid going around it. So this takes out the fact that this could be something just traveling in a straight line, because it effectively goes around the laser beam, which is crazy. So we're watching that, and as we're watching it, more and more things are starting to happen. We're starting to notice that in the sky that they are blinking on and off. So one would blink on the left and it would disappear, and then would blink on the right of the sky miles away from itself in an instant. Um, so we watched all kinds of things like this, and Chris keeps calling them and saying where they're going to be. And one of the strangest things happened, and it was the first instance of it.
Now wait, Scotty, I
Yeah,
have to ask. He's calling them in. He's whatever. But
yeah.
is when he's saying, "Look, up here you're gonna see them." What is he doing? Is he telepathically calling to these things? Does he, instead of call to them, is he just more acutely aware of, I'm going to see something over in this part of the sky, and then it made itself known to him? Is that how it works?
Dave, I don't know. But I'm gonna talk you through this part of the story, and I'm going to tell all of you right up front. Since that's happened, I went camping with Chris because we're doing a video series together. Um, and we spent one night and we were looking in the sky and we had them come and it happened again. And then after the second time I did this with Chris, now I'm able to do it, or at least I'm able to perceive them. So we'll back it up because this is again, I've never seen anything like this in my life. And I have been in places that are super clear. I've been in the middle of Iraq on in with no light pollution in the desert. And I saw the International Space Station. I've seen everything that you can imagine in the night sky, except for these strange glowing orbs that he could command and tell us where they were going to be and what they were doing. So this is the first night. So what happens is we're out there at like 12:30 at night. And finally, by the way, everybody, there's no alcohol or any other things being used. It's just like nothing. We're not partying. So um, basically, 4 hours went by. What we felt like was like 20 minutes. 4 hours of time had elapsed while we were standing on the deck. Four adult grown men with back problems, and we didn't even realize that the time had went. It was insanely ridiculous. So,
All right.
uh,
So out on
yeah,
this deck, 4 hours pass in the blink of an eye. It feels like
yep,
20 minutes, 4 hours.
yep,
But again, you are watching things move about almost at will to this friend of yours, his
yep,
will. How are you processing this? Again, I know you've got the logical brain. I know you're looking to make sense of it. He
right,
points to a location, says something's going to happen, and then something happens. How
yeah,
you got to walk us through for people that have never had an experience like that. I have. I've been there. I've had this happen. I'm
right.
just curious to hear your version of this.
I won't repeat it on the Paranormal 60, but they were all expletives, especially after he did it like 5 or 6 times, like calling them, like pointing to where they were going to be. And just like it wasn't a guess, he knew. So either he knew cognitively somehow, or like, with some sort of telepathy where they would be, like you said, or he's literally telling them where to be, which I don't know. But it broke that part, bent my mind because remember, I tell people about crazy stuff that I see or perceive or witness all the time, and it kind of bends their mind if I can prove that I'm seeing it. So when I'm having this experience, my mind is starting to bend that way because I'm like, my rational brain is saying this can't be real, but at the same time, I'm not observing this as a psychic or a medium. I'm observing this with my eyeballs. So I know that this is factually happening. It's not a guess. Like we don't
With
have.
that said, Scotty, you've always got spirit around you. You've got
Mhm.
that energy. When you're looking at this and your brain is bending, are you speaking to your guides? Are you speaking to and is anything telling you this is real, Scotty?
Dude, I don't know how to explain this. It felt like I was in slow motion. I don't even the only thing I remember is like watching the most beautiful fireworks I've ever seen. I was just so in awe that this was happening in front of me that I didn't have any other thoughts, which is why it we didn't even get any video footage of this stuff. A bunch of paranormal investigators with cameras and equipment, and we go and how it is. We go looking for stuff. So it was so mind bending that I didn't even process or have that thought of like, "Oh, you should film this and show, to show people," and it just didn't occur. It was so weird, which is a recurring theme. So the next day, after we go to bed, everybody gets good night's sleeps. Nobody gets abducted that we know of. Um, our buddy Sean gets to the Paracon a little bit early to set some stuff up. And he calls Chris and I over and he goes, "Hey guys, come here. We found this guy inside. He's a kid, like a 20 something year old kid. And he works for Space Force." And I was like, "Well, that's strange because we just had this weird
Yeah.
experience all night, right?
Right.
I honestly, even though I'm a veteran, I thought Space Force was kind of a joke. I didn't know they're a real thing. They're real. So, anyways, we get escorted inside and we meet this young guy. It's just like a nondescript 20-year-old with like a tank top and shorts on or whatever. And he's talking to us, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I don't know how he and Sean got to talking, but basically he introduced himself to Sean and told him that he worked for Space Force for some reason." So, um, we wanted to ask him, like, "Okay, you work for Space Force. What do you guys think about like all these like weird things that are up in the sky?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, no, that's totally normal. Like, that's a completely normal thing." And we are like, do you guys know what all those things are?" And he was like, "No, not at all." Now, listen, guys, police officer and a Marine Corps veteran with a top secret clearance. That's some of my background. So when I'm asking him questions, I am kind of trying to interrogate him a little bit to see what's he going to tell me, because he shouldn't have been saying anything. If I'm asking questions about like, do we know if everything's identified? His answer should be, I can't talk about it, because that's a national security issue, right? Do you feel good knowing that our government doesn't know some of the stuff that's up there, and we have 20-something-year-old kid talking to us about it in the middle of rural Pennsylvania? Right. So he talks to us a little bit, and we just ask him a little bit more about his job. And Chris and I both are like putting the red flag up after we walk away from this kid, and we were like, dude, this is weird. Why of all nights would he find us, or of all days would we've run into somebody from Space Force at a Paracon, right? So super strange. So the day kind of goes on, and that kid kind of remains in the background of our day that day. So we move forward through the day, and this is the next strange thing, and it involves missing time or time warping somehow. So it's probably about like 6 o'clock at night or so. Chris and I need to get some dinner. So we hop in his truck. It's like a 2025 Ram. It's like pretty new, right? It's a reliable vehicle. He hooks up his iPhone to the GPS. He puts in this Mexican restaurant that's 20 minutes from where we are. And we're like, good, plenty of time to get to the restaurant, eat, and then get to the second part of the event for that day. So we hop in the truck, we plot the course, we go. So as we're driving, we're just jaw jacking. And Dave and I are no stranger to having a long drive to talk. So we kind of just get to talking, and we kind of get like hypnotized a little bit. So what happens is, as we're driving, when we left, the restaurant was 20 minutes away. The sun was up. As we're driving, Chris kind of like, after we're driving and talking for a long time, Chris goes, "Hey, why does the GPS still say that we're 20 minutes away? And why is the sun going down already?" And we looked down at the clock, and it still said that we were 20 minutes away, but now the restaurant was going to close in an hour. Whereas prior to us leaving, we had like a couple hours before the restaurant was going to close. And somehow what happened is the GPS kept sending us in a circle, and we made sure that we understood what happened as it was going on once we clicked out of it. Because Chris, as the sun's going down, he's like, "Hey, I this is weird. We should have been there." And he points to a house, and he goes, don't you think we passed that house already?" And I said, "All right, hold on, Chris. If there's a house after this and it's got like a bunch of like junky old cars in front of it, then yes, we have, because I saw them once before at least." So sure enough, that house comes up. So yeah, so the GPS leads us down this road again, and it wants us to make a left and go the way that we had went previously. But Chris is like, "No way, that obviously that's not the right way." So we go straight instead, and the GPS finally recalculates itself and puts us back on course to the restaurant, which is now like 16 minutes away. So somehow the time dilated while we were driving, where we were in the car for what felt like hours, but it was only minutes, or it was minutes and it felt like hours. It's a weird time warp that happened while we were driving from one point to another. And neither one of us can really explain it.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we are just getting started, folks. This is a bizarre story, and one you need to hear to believe. Now, letting you listen to those of you listening to just the podcast version, we will be showing a video in a little bit that Scotty has supplied to me. I'll also show a photograph that is created to, give you an insight to what Scotty and his friend witness. So we'll be showing that in a little bit as well. But just kind of mark the time when you're listening on the radio version, the podcast version. Go back to the video and check it out because you're going to want to see that. We'll be back. We've got more to discuss. I'm Dave Schrader. That's Scotty Davis, and together we are spacemen.
Did you know that radio just got a little extraterrestrial? That's right, Dave Schrader is back on radio with the Paranormal 360 every Sunday evening, 7 to 9 p.m. Central on WCCO AM 830 and Odyssey station. Just download the Odyssey app and look for the WCCO logo, follow the station, and listen live. That's the Paranormal 360 on WCCO AM 830 and Odyssey station.
Welcome back to the program. Dave Schrader here, my good friend Scotty Davis. For those of you that are longtime listeners to this program, recognize Scotty, usually part of the Scotty and Sarah show. We have them on. We'll still make that happen this August and have the two of them join us for an interesting evening of emails and stories. But this was an opportunity to kind of shine the light on something that happened to Scotty. And now, for context, how long ago, Scotty, are we talking about something that happened to you a decade ago, 3 years ago, a year ago? Where does this fall?
June of this year. So what was that, like 2 months ago?
Okay.
And
I want people to realize that's how fresh this is. And when you originally had it happen, you said, Dave, I've got to talk to you about something. I'm just not at that point yet.
Yeah.
And you would give me little tastes, but never got deep into the story. So this is kind of our first time getting a chance to share and hear this. So now you've got a couple of different instances of warped time.
Yep.
You've seen things.
Yep.
You're experiencing something manipulating you, your friend, the vehicle, GPS.
Yep.
And even your perceptions, right? Because you would have normally realized you're driving in circles for 20 minutes.
Yeah. Like it was the most bizarre thing. Like, how did we not notice that?
Right.
You know, and for so long until finally, like, we like kind of just broke out of that like hypnosis. It was so weird. Which would be fine if we were going in a straight line, but we were making turns. So now I'm like, I always try to think of things like really rationally, and so does Chris. Chris doesn't just jump into everything's paranormal. But when we got to the restaurant, we were both like in agreement, like that was really strange that time dilation happened, and whatever. So we had our dinner and we finished up. Everything's cool. We have to go to two separate locations. So he drops me off where I'm going to do my investigation with some people, and he goes to his. We split up, and then my stuff finishes earlier, so I end up back at the Airbnb with our buddy Sean and his family. And then Chris shows up at about like 1:45 in the morning, so it's pretty late when his thing is done. So we are hanging out again at the B&B, just chilling in the kitchen. It's the last night that we're going to be in the house. So we're just hanging out and having a good time, some good laughs. And Sean's family goes to bed, and Chris goes, guys, do you want to see if we can, see more UFOs or whatever? And we were like, hell yeah, now it's an adventure. Let's see what's going to happen. So unfortunately, what happened was some clouds rolled in. So there wasn't a lot that we could see where we were. So what we did was we checked the radar and we found a spot that didn't have any clouds that was nearby. It's like 20 minutes away. So we hop in Chris's truck and he drives us about 20 minutes out. Again, it's rural Pennsylvania. So it's pitch black. There's no moon in the sky and there's some cloud covers. So we get out to this, what I think is like a park next to a river, because it is so dark. And Chris is the kind of cop who just is like, that sign doesn't count for me. Like, it just goes in places. In any case, we end up in this park that's super closed and but super dark and perfect. So we pull in and Chris opens up the skylight and the windows, and we just like kind of lean back and start looking up out the window to see if we can see any UFOs out there. So Sean's in the back seat, I'm in the front right seat, and Chris is in the driver's seat. And we're looking around, and Sean and I are like, hey, Chris, the lights from the car are too bright. Turn them off so we have complete darkness. So Chris is like, yeah, let's do that. So he turns off the truck, and then we start watching. We start seeing the anomalies again, and Chris starts calling them out one by one. And it's just like it was the night before. But something else strange starts to happen. the whole entire park that we could hear when we rolled in, like the crickets and the wind and just the noises that you can hear in the dark, they all went completely silent. And the three of us noticed it, and the feeling of like dread started to move in on all of us. So it's pitch black, the crickets and all of the noises from the woods stop. And we've been looking at these UFOs. And then all of a sudden we start to hear things like footsteps coming through the grass and breaking twigs, and it sounds like something pretty large. So now Chris, myself, and Sean, and again, an Army veteran and probably about 280 pounds, big man, the three of us are like, oh my God, we got to turn the headlights back on. What the hell is that? So Chris starts hitting the push the start button on the dashboard, and like a Stephen King movie, the truck won't start. And he's like pressing and pressing and pressing, and the truck isn't starting. And as that's happening, we can hear the sounds getting closer. So finally, the dashboard comes to life, and then the truck turns back on. And this is what I didn't expect. Well, first off, we didn't see Bigfoot or anything else, thank God, because I would have had a heart attack. But what did happen was this other thing. This really low-lying fog rolled into the park in the like 20 minutes that we had been sitting there. And I'm going to fill in something here that I left out, and I did it on purpose because this is more missing time. So I spent some time on a phone call with Chris and Sean recently, and during that encounter, they said to me, "Do you remember the EVPs that we got inside the truck?" And I said, "What are you guys talking about? We didn't do any EVPs out in the truck." And they were like, "Yes, we did." And I said, "Guys, we didn't have enough time to do that." And they were like, "Bro, we were out there for like 2 hours." And in my head, it's 15 minutes. And I do not remember anybody taking out a voice recorder. And I certainly do not remember doing anything with EVPs. So missing time for me, big time. So
Wait a minute, though. Why attempting electronic voice phenomena? Is it because you're hearing something you can't see? Let's see if an alien's going to speak to us, a Bigfoot, a ghost. What was the hope?
maybe, Dave, we'd have to ask them because I don't even remember doing it. They told me about it, and I was like, I honestly don't remember. Now they told me that they did get stuff, and then when I asked them for the proof, basically they were like, well, it's on an old DR60, so we had to delete them to make room. But I do believe that we probably did an EVP session that I just don't remember. They wouldn't have any reason to lie to me or fabricate that part. So we're sitting in the truck comes back on, and then all this fog had rolled in, and it was like horror movie fog, it was like really thick, and it was really hard to see the ground anymore. So basically we just told Chris, like, dude, that's enough of this. Let's get the heck out of here. That's enough of this for tonight. So yeah, we hightailed it out of there. We get back to the Airbnb, and that's it. That's it for the three of us in that part of the adventure. So the next morning, we split up. Chris and I are heading out to a different part of Pennsylvania to explore this.
Can I reel you back for 1 minute? I'm just
go ahead, whatever you got, man.
Just kind of being bombarded with this information. My brain is going into 100 places. The one question I need to go back to, though, is when did Chris realize he could communicate or call them down? How long has this guy been doing that?
So I don't want to speak for him because I don't know, but what I can tell you is that he has a story. He grew up in Puerto Rico, and I think he said he moved to the United States when he was 8 or 9 years old. But before that, he was lived in Puerto Rico. That's his family, and he told me about some experiences with aliens out there, and they were what you would call close encounters of the first kind. So he would have to talk to you guys about that. I don't want to tell his story or give any information that's not.
Well, let's get him on the show sometime.
I'm sure he would love to tell you about all this interesting stuff. So I don't know how long he's been doing it, but he's told me. I mean, I've known him for a few years, and that was like after a while of knowing him was one of the things that he like kind of told me about. And it, in my opinion, that almost takes as much guts, or if not more guts, than telling people you talk to dead people. Because the only thing more unbelievable to me than dead people is UFOs or anything else.
And that you could call them down,
and that you could
show up when you point it out, right? Yeah,
yeah, it's wild. So So Chris and I are going to head out to this like haunted church the next day, and Sean and his family are headed up to Gettysburg for something. So we split ways in the morning. Chris and I decide on the fly that we're going to go to these haunted tunnels. They're like abandoned turnpike tunnels in the middle of Pennsylvania. I don't remember what part, but you can find them. They're all over like social media and stuff. So Chris and I are like, yo, we got hours to kill until we're going to get to the investigation at the church. Let's go check out these tunnels real quick. So we drive like an hour out to these tunnels, and basically this is important. It's Father's Day weekend this year, right? So it's Father's Day weekend. It's a Sunday. That's the day Chris and I are at the tunnels. It's like 85 degrees out. It's a beautiful day. This place is not quite a park, but it is. So basically, there's 2 rock parking lots, and then you leave your vehicle, and then you have to walk literally what used to be turnpike roads. It looks like The Walking Dead, like everything's overgrown through like the road, and you can see the paint markers, and the guardrail is still there. It's really neat. So you have to walk this road like 2 miles to get to the tunnel. So Chris and I start our adventure. We have an interesting encounter with these folks in the parking lot. They talk to Chris about his truck, which is really weird. This guy has this they're like in their 20s, this 20 something year old girl tells us to watch out for the sigils inside the tunnel and stuff, and I'm like trying to take it all in while they're sharing all this information as it's going on. But whatever. So we talk to them. We head down this road, and there's families there. There's people riding bikes. There's people walking their dogs. It's just like a nice day for people to be out. So we get down to the tunnel, and you guys can check out my YouTube channel or Instagram. You can see pictures of the tunnel. It's really cool. People graffitied the living daylights out of it, but it's like really cool artwork. So it's cool. So Chris and I were taking some pictures there, and this guy approaches us, and he's like in his like probably early to mid 50s. And he's chatting us up, and he's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" And we're like, "Just have cameras out. And we're taking pictures." And he looks at us and he goes, "Oh, you guys ghost hunters?" Mind you, we do not have any ghost hunting gear out. No ghost hunting gear. All I have is a backpack and my little GoPro, and Chris has something similar. So he just like took a swing in the dark, and he knew that we were ghost hunters. So I'm like, yeah, we're ghost hunters, right? I think you guys, if you watch the video, you can even see it. So, because I got him on film with us this whole time. So this dude talks to us for a little while, and he tells Chris that he helped build the turnpike tunnels. Okay. Which we find out later would have been impossible because of his age and how long ago those were built. So, while we're walking with this, so basically, just to shorten the story up, this guy decides he's going to walk with us to the middle of the tunnel where Chris and I want to ghost hunt. Okay. And he just kind of attaches to us and our crew. So we roll with him down to the middle of the tunnel, and it's a long walk down there. So while we're walking, this guy talks to Chris, and then he changes it from he helped build the Parkway tunnel to he did something with LiDAR. Okay. And like, remember, Chris is a cop too. So he's like taking in information and being like, you told me something different a couple minutes ago. So we get out to the middle of the tunnel, like dead center in the middle of it. Now, this is what's weird and why I wanted to tell you it was such a nice day. There were people there when we got there. By the time we got to the middle of the tunnel, say it's 2:30 in the afternoon on Father's Day. It's a beautiful 80-degree day in the middle of Pennsylvania. We got there. There were people riding bikes, walking dogs, couples, the whole thing. The place had people everywhere. By the time we got to the middle of the tunnel, it was absolutely dead quiet. There wasn't a single human being besides the 3 of us in the middle of the day in this big, awesome old tunnel. And the only way you can ghost hunt in a tunnel is to have complete quiet. So, Dave, what are the chances of that happening, do you think? If you walked out, like zero, right? Like none. Like,
and the acoustics of things on the either side of this tunnel would just be bouncing through.
Yeah. So if there was one other person there not ghost hunting and didn't care what we were doing, we couldn't have done it. But that didn't happen. No, the whole place was completely quiet. We sat down, we had a session. Definitely cool stuff happened. By the end of it, we decided that we wanted to walk all the way to the other end of the tunnel to make it to the end before we went back. So we walk with this guy down, and we come back. And on the way back, there's a couple people that have now entered the scene. There's two people on one e-bike, a man and a woman. They ride by us. The woman is sitting on the e-bike with this man, and she's sitting like English saddle style. So like both of her legs are on one side of the bike and she's on the back. It was really weird. It was bizarre looking. So they fly by us and then they come by us again. Then a couple minutes later, two other people on e-bikes, another man and woman, they come by us. And I got to tell you the strangest thing about this. It was like somebody saw a cartoon and thought, oh, that's what human beings look like on motorbikes. It was like these overly large human beings on overly tiny e-bikes. Now they could have just been people from Pennsylvania, and I'm not taking a stab there. I'm just saying. But what happened is they drive by us, and then a couple minutes later, they're coming back to go by us again. And we're almost out of the tunnel by now. And I hop up on this big ledge that's like the curb in the tunnel, and I'm watching this girl. She's coming by, and she has her phone out and she's filming us as she goes by. And when she sees that I can see she's filming us, she takes her phone and she tucks it away. Now, I don't know if she was filming and got embarrassed that like she was like, "Oh, I don't want to get you guys in the shot," or she felt bad about it because I do social media. I get it, that happens. But it was not. It didn't feel that way. She like hid the phone, like, "Oh, you shouldn't have seen me doing that." It was so strange. So we're headed out of the tunnel. We're going on this long walk back. Remember, we still had this guy with us, Clark, and we're making this long walk back. And now he tells Chris, and I hear this. He tells Chris and I that his job is that he maps out walking parks around the state and around the country, and he just happens to have mapped out a park that is like 3 miles from where Chris lives. We are 8 hours away from where Chris lives in the middle of Pennsylvania, folks. The chances of this guy knowing and being it's astronomical. How many parks are in one town, and then you mapped a walking trail there. Okay, so and somehow he also knows that Chris has kids. So we get back to the parking lot, and before we get to Chris's
So it's important to mention what you're saying is this guy is telling Chris things about himself
yes,
and about where he lives without getting that knowledge from
Right.
Chris. Okay.
and this is important too, everybody. I buttoned up around this guy pretty good because not that I'm like, super duper or anything, but like I also, when I was in the Marine Corps, I got trained for terrorism awareness. And part of that is to understand when you are getting interrogated without forcefully being interrogated, like when people are extracting information without you knowing they're doing it, right? Chris and I are also trained negotiator. We know how to get information out of folks too, right? So I hear this guy and I'm like, this literally sounds like he wants us to reciprocate and give him information, and I didn't want to. So we kept minimal talking with him. Anyways, we get through all this. We get to back to the parking lot, and this guy, without missing a beat, looks at Chris's truck and he goes, "Chris, that's your truck?" Okay, why would you even guess that? Because now there's other cars here again.
Yikes.
So, it was so weird, right? So we're like, okay, now here's another little tidbit of this. This guy tells us that he one, built the tunnel, two, he works with LiDAR, three, he builds walking paths. Then he tells us that he dropped his daughter off at this other town in Pennsylvania and just happened to want to stop by the tunnel in order to see it since he was last there, right? And Chris and I afterwards, we were like mulling over what this guy had talked to us about, and we were like, wait a minute, he happened to come out here and he was wearing a ball cap, a hiking t-shirt, cargo shorts, and suitable footwear for hiking, but he just decided on a whim to come out here. It kind of sounds like he came out here on purpose. So we're like, dude, this is getting really freaky now. So we're done with this. We head off to this haunted church, and some of the strangest time dilation happened at the church. And then let's see where we at time, because I want to make sure we get
Well, let's do this. Yeah, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll find out about what happens next. Stay tuned. We will show a picture. We will show some video later of, I'm guessing, is Chris calling on the UFOs? Is that what the video is that I saw earlier?
Yep.
Okay, we'll show some of that later. Stay tuned. We've got more to discuss. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. This is the Paranormal 60.
Did you know that radio just got a little extraterrestrial? That's right, Dave Schrader is back on radio with the Paranormal 360 every Sunday evening, 7 to 9 p.m. Central on WCCO AM 830, an Odyssey station. Just download the Odyssey app and look for the WCCO logo, follow the station, and listen live. That's the Paranormal 360 on WCCO AM 830, an Odyssey station.
Let's roll right into it. Scotty Davis, our guest,
Yeah.
this evening, in a little bit of a different role. Normally, he's here hearing other people's stories, weighing in on it, giving his insights as a medium, as somebody who has witnessed or has an interest in witnessing many different things. Now he is being watched. He is the hunter has become the hunted in this sense, in some ways, and each chapter seems to unfold in a more unusual and bizarre way. All right, so take us to the church.
All right, so we head off to this cool church. This really nice girl owns it. She runs a couple different businesses out of it. It wasn't a Christian church. I can't remember what denomination it was, but it's just defunct, and reportedly had some pretty interesting paranormal stuff there. So we go there on the invite. By the way, shout out to Amanda. She's super nice. I'm sorry, Miranda. And we check out this really cool church. And the best thing about this young lady who owns this church is she's also very much into the paranormal, hence why she owns this church. But she really knows her security camera, which is so nice. So, and I'm sure, Dave, you know, because people send you security camera footage all the time. And if they knew how the camera worked a little bit better, they would know that it probably isn't ghost stuff happening, or they could be easier to debunk it or prove it. So anyways, this girl knows the security camera really well. So the first time dilation happens like this. We are all sitting in this big empty room where the pews used to be. We're sitting at a table and we're running a spirit box over the PA system in the church to see if that will help amplify whatever's there and see if we can get some cool paranormal stuff. So myself, the young lady who owns the church, and a couple other young ladies that are investigating with us, we're all sitting down at the table that's there, and Chris has like his phone out and a little flashlight, and he's standing up. So let's say that Chris is standing on the left side of the room. This girl taps me on the shoulder and she goes, "Look at the security cam footage really quick," and she shows it to me, and I say, "Okay, what's going on?" So it's us sitting at the table, and it gets triggered on motion. So of course we're sitting there, so it's going to trigger, right? So what happens though is this: Chris is on the left side of the room, and the camera triggers, and you can see him move a little bit, and then all of a sudden he kind of teleports to the other side of the room, which I said to her, I was like, "Oh, it's probably just a bad Wi-Fi feed," because that's what I would expect. If the feed got interrupted, it would have jumped and you wouldn't have that footage in the middle. So this is the weird part. The camera is set up to record for 2 minutes upon getting triggered. Let's just say, for the sake of making this easy to understand, that it was exactly midnight. Chris triggers the camera at midnight by standing there and swaying, or somebody moves. The camera turns on and it sees him on the left side of the room. If the camera is supposed to record for 2 minutes exactly, then by the time Chris teleports across the room, then the timestamp should say 12:02. That's not what happened. Chris teleports across the room and the timestamp goes from 12 to about 12:05. So even the camera lost the time, which isn't possible because the camera keeps the time, not the Wi-Fi. So Chris and we are sitting in the frame. You can see us down at the corner, down at the bottom, and we're just sitting there as if nothing is going on. We don't notice him move. We don't notice this skip. We don't notice until she shows us the footage, and she is the one who points out the timestamp like this. That's not how the camera works. And she knew it cold, so I knew that this was a credible catch. So armed with that information, just kind of like kept going through this, right? Because we're like, that's not enough to make us stop ghost hunting. So we go into the basement of this place, and we're sitting at a table again, and it's kind of the end of the night. We're wrapping it up, and I'm telling the ladies about the story from the guy earlier at the tunnels, the one I just told you guys. So I get through this story, and Chris is sitting like 5 feet from me to the left, like right there. And I tell the story, and Chris goes, "Scott, you didn't tell them the whole story." And I was like, "Yes, I did." And I recounted it real quick. And the girls were like, "Yeah, he definitely told us that whole story, right?" And then Chris starts and tells the other half of the story as if I never told it, because he was like, "No, he didn't. I was sitting right here. He didn't say it." So again, sitting in our presence while we're talking, Chris is paying attention. He's not on his phone because we were locked in doing an investigation, and he loses the time as we're sitting right there with him. And he's the only one who didn't remember me literally just giving that part of the story.
So now what it's showing is that it also can manipulate individuals
Yes.
in a moment. So whereas all of you are there, you're experiencing time in different waves.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
that to me is probably the most unsettling aspect so far.
Bro, listen, this isn't even done yet. This is coming up on the finale here. Okay. So this is the part, and I have new information because Chris and I had to retalk this. So we leave the church. It's about 3:30 in the morning, and I have to reiterate this. It's rural Pennsylvania. There is nothing around us. There's farms, flat land, and there's some trees. Okay. So we hop into this Chris's truck. We say goodbye to everybody. We pull out and we drive away. We drive away from the town that we're in, and we're headed back to our hotel room. So as we're driving, Chris and I are just recounting like the whole last weekend, all the stuff I just told you guys. Chris and I had a really deep discussion about it, because now that we were talking about the missing time in real time, and realizing it so fast, we were really like, there is something really crazy happening. So we get out to like the more rural part, right? It's a 2-lane road. There are trees on either side of us. There's no streetlights, and there's no overhead moon or anything. Okay. We're driving, and again, we're in Chris's big old Ram pickup truck. I'm in the passenger seat, and we're looking ahead of us. Now, Chris, again, being a police officer, his windows are tinted, so the inside of the truck is even darker than most people's cars. Okay. So we're driving, and all of a sudden, in front of me, like what seemed like 30 or 40 feet from us, as we're traveling at about 25, 30 miles an hour, I see this really bright light start to emit from the trees. And at first I thought, oh, it must be a car and headlights hitting the trees, and that's what I'm looking at. But when headlights hit a tree from a car that's going around a bend, the beam gets wider, and that's not what was going on. And furthermore, the closer we got to this thing that I was witnessing, the brighter it got. And the brightness was the intensity of anybody has ever saw somebody welding. The spark at the point of the weld and the sparks that come off of it, that is the brightness and intensity that I'm talking about, of which I witnessed next.
Literally white hot.
White hot. So as I'm watching this, the sparks are growing up from the bottom of the road or the trees and upward. And it's like somebody lit off 1,000 4th of July sparklers all at once. And I can see sparks, but the sparks don't have a pattern. They fly everywhere. These weren't doing that. It was like they were contained to walls as this thing grew up. As I'm watching this, my heart, I could feel it like slowing down, because I was in such a state of shock of what I was looking at. And I thought to myself, okay, you see crazy stuff all of the time. Maybe this is just like one of those things that you've never seen. And I thought, if Chris sees this, then it's really real. And as I'm having that thought, Chris launches his hand across the seat and hits me and says, "Are you seeing this?" So he was seeing it too. But this is the new information that I have. I saw what looked like a white hot door or portal or doorway on the ground. And this is almost, I used AI to show you guys what what it almost exactly looked like, and this is the closest thing that I could get it to replicate.
We're
It
showing the image right now for those of you listening. It's somewhere in and around the 50-minute mark in the show.
so if you look at it, it's just a doorway with all of these crazy glowing sparks coming out of it. And that's what I witnessed. So, what Chris witnessed, he and I witnessed different things. And I don't know how to explain the two of us seeing something anomalous, but seeing something almost not almost completely different, but so different that we describe. Okay, so Chris told me 2 weeks ago when I described to him the doorway that I saw, the night that we saw it, he kept saying, "Scott, that," and I was so blown away by what I was seeing, I wasn't listening to him that night because he kept saying, "Scott, that looked like the doorway that Doctor Strange would come out of." And he kept telling me it was in the air. And I was like, "No, Chris, it was on the ground and it was white." And he kept saying, "No, it was like a Doctor Strange portal in the sky." And I didn't comprehend that at the time. And 2 weeks ago when we were having a conversation again, he reminded me. He was like, "Don't you remember I kept telling you it looked like a Doctor Strange portal or a Sonic the Hedgehog portal from the silly movie?" And I was like, "Yes, I do remember that you said that now." But I was so entrained on what I saw that it's to me, it seems even impossible the two of us could have seen something anomalous, but seen something completely different. It really, like,
Right. It's
broke.
like looking and seeing Dave Schrader wearing a hat, and you're like, boy, his top hat is amazing. And they're like, no, dude, it was a bucket hat. Well, no,
Yeah,
it was obviously there. There's no doubt
right,
that there was something there, but the way both of you perceived it, something completely different.
and spatially in a different spot. So remember, we're both law enforcement, we both are, we're used to facing stuff down, in the dark too, right, as paranormal investigators. But something, like, washed over us, like, we both knew, like, this was not gonna end well for us if we stuck around. So, we gunned it out of there. We got to the hotel and, basically without saying too much, we were like, if anybody comes through that door, game over for them because nobody's coming, because that's how much fear we had at that moment to whatever we had experienced all weekend. And then, we can fast forward it to a couple weeks ago when we were doing our camping trip.
Well, now wait, I want to know
Yeah.
when you're seeing this thing,
Yeah.
are you hearing crackling? Are you hearing the crickets, wolves baying? Is there any sound, any smell to the air,
Dude,
anything else?
no, it's like time stopped, man. It was so weird. Like, I don't remember anything except for being so locked on to what that was that everything else stopped. All of my other senses stopped. I When I talk about fight or flight, that is true fight or flight. And both of us, again, just like the night before, felt fight or flight, and we couldn't rationalize what it is. So flight it is, right? Because what is it? Who
Does
knows?
that
I don't
does that drive you crazy? As somebody who I've spoken to for years that wants to run full force into something, you see a doorway there, you see the twilight zone opening before you. How hard is it now to think, damn it, why didn't I go through?
it's insanely frustrating. And it's not even that I just didn't go through, who knows, but just like I'm mad I didn't stop and take a picture. I'm mad. I'm the guy who yells at the other guy for not getting the photo, right? Like, why didn't you just stop and take the picture? Geesh. I'm that guy now. I didn't, and we were just so overwhelmed with this unexpected information that we were presented with that neither one of us was ready for. But Chris made a good observation. It seems to be stronger when the two of us are together. So there might be something to it.
That's a lot like Dustin Perry, a good friend of ours, who he has a friend that when they're together, telekinetic things happen, strange phenomena. It's really powerful. That's it does seem sometimes you get those two, the yin and yang, and they come together on this.
Yeah.
Um, After you leave this, again, are you comparing notes? Are you looking at time to see if you've missed anything?
Yeah, we've talked about it a couple times. That's how I came to find out that they did that EVP session in the woods when we are in that park or whatever. Because I just don't remember that. It's a complete blank. I don't remember any bit of it. So we went
Now,
over
is
it.
that something that you're interested in going in for a regression to try to understand what happened to you?
No, I'm okay with saying like I know something happened. I'm not quite sure what, but now that I've kind of dipped my toe in it, and I've had some time to process it, just like the ghost stuff, I think it might be time for me to like start looking more into it. I think there's something more to it for sure. Because like I said, I went with Chris camping in the Pine Barrens to do a couple new videos with him. And we sat out one night and he's like, "Oh, do you want to look for UFOs again?" And now I'm like in the middle of the Pine Barrens, which is just, it's like notorious for bad stuff happening there. So I'm like, do we want to do this? And I was like, you know what? Let's try it. So sure enough, we start seeing them down in New Jersey. So the one thing that happened this time that didn't happen last time was one of these lights, one of these orbs formed, and it kind of stuck in one place. And then all of a sudden, because Chris was like kind of pointing the lights at it too, all of a sudden, this thing, instead of gliding across the sky like they had been, it seemingly was coming closer and getting much, much brighter. And it was getting really freaky because it felt like it was coming right down on top of us. But it was probably still like a couple thousand feet away, but it felt like it was coming down. But I wasn't as afraid at that moment as I was the first time I had witnessed this. So when I got home, I told my wife about the experience, and I told her everything. By the way, when I got home in New Jersey, I told my wife, uh, like, watch out for anybody who might be trying to interject themselves in our life at the moment, like strangers or people we don't know, or if you see somebody watching us, let me know. Because that's how fearful I was. And my wife is the first person in the world to be like, "You're full of crap. Like, stop, knock it off. You're being crazy. This is dumb. Don't do that." She heard the story and was like, "Okay, if I notice anything, I'll tell you." And the next day we were out at a movie and we did have some strange encounters with some people watching us. And it was very plain to see it was two single white males in their like 50s, same as the guy in the tunnel. And they were in this theater and they were not together and they did stuff. It was weird. So, anyways, um, come home to my house now, my backyard. I kind of live where there's a lot of light pollution, but you can still see the sky pretty well. And I wanted to show my wife what Chris and I had been witnessing. And I was like, I wonder if I look up there long enough, if I'll see them without Chris here. And sure enough, I started seeing them. And this is where I think things are interesting. We live in New Jersey and I live in the flight path of Newark Airport. So I know what airplanes look like. I know what helicopters look like because they buzz over my house to go to New York City all the time. And I know what those drones look like because I literally have video of them in my backyard. So I know what all the flight stuff looks like over here. I pointed up in the sky in my backyard and I said to my wife, I said, "Watch up here." And they started showing. Now I couldn't predict where they were going to be, but we started watching and I started seeing them. And at first my wife was like, "Those are airplanes." And I said, "Shell, look at the airplanes. Every airplane in the sky you can identify because it's blinking." I said, "And they're a lot lower than these things that we're looking at higher up." So we trained on our eyes up on them for a little while. And I was like, "Do you see?" And then my wife started to see them. And then I'm going to say this. She didn't say this to me. I think she got a little bit freaked out and was like, "I'm done. I don't want to look at this anymore." And she was like, "It's all airplanes." And she like shut herself off to it and, and went inside. So, um,
Is that the video that you sent me? Is that you
so
and your wife?
no, the video that I sent you was one that Chris took. He took it the day after we had gotten back from Pennsylvania, because he was showing his girlfriend that what we were experiencing. So he has confidence that he can just go outside and as long as there's no clouds, he can be like, "There they are." So he was showing his wife because after that experience we had, we were like, we better start documenting this if we see it. So yeah, I gave you a video that Chris took and you can check
It's
it
about
out.
a minute 13. Now, again, you're looking into the sky, folks. The screen may be small. If you're watching this on a big screen TV, good for you.
Yep.
This is the point where you might want to pull away from the chat for a few minutes and elevate your screen so it's as big as it can be. And we'll now play that video.
Dude, we just tried the experiment again. And we got them rolling through. This is like way up there. Way up there.
I feel like the three, like, spread out more.
And there's one right there that has one attached right to the top of it.
I feel like they were tighter though, like they like farther apart.
one keeps spinning around it. Look, you can see it really good on my camera. Here, you see it from there?
Yeah.
Watch this.
Oh, I see it now.
Yeah, there's a couple of them out. Where the other one just went? There it is, it's still rolling.
That's crazy.
Look at the trail leaves behind. You see it?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's fucking nuts.
That's an off one.
Hey,
Yeah.
this is a family show. What kind of language is that at the end?
It
But he's
Yeah.
right. That was nuts.
was. And that
Wow.
was nothing compared to what we actually saw. That was just like, he was like, oh, I want to show that this is like a real thing.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Scotty, as always, holy cow. I have to ask now, you've seen this, you've witnessed this, you go out, you look to the skies, now you can see them, you're calling upon them, however you want to look at it. You're also aware that now you're being watched. How does this impact and affect your life going forward?
So, not much other than the fact that I know that there's something else out there now, right? Like now I've always said, like, I'm open to the idea of other life. I mean, I'd be silly not to be, I think. So, I always said, like, show it to me when you think I'm ready. And that's what I think happened. They said, hey, this guy's ready. And they showed up, and, I don't know that I was that ready, but I guess I'm good now.
You know, there's footage right now that's showing up online. Robert Bigelow, talking about many different things. Everything from we know there is proof that we exist beyond this physical form, to there are aliens, they're walking amongst us, to craft. He's coming forward. Now, this is the guy that owns Skinwalker Ranch,
Right.
Bigelow Aerospace, right? So, I mean, I can't say he's not nuts, right? Everybody could be nuts, but this guy is in the know and understands things.
Yeah.
It seems like there's something to what's going on, and we're coming to a head, Scotty. Do you feel like this is something now that, in
Yes.
all honesty, from now that you've experienced it, in the next 10 years, do you think this is something that is going to be a boon and everybody's going to start having these type of experiences?
Yeah, I think, I just thought about this today. I was thinking about how many people were like waking up as like mediums or psychics, and like really waking up to the world around them.
Mhm.
And I was like, boy, I can't help but feel a little bit jealous, because I really liked feeling a little bit special. But then I was like, that's kind of selfish. I was like, I like that everybody's waking up, because it'll make people more kind and nice, I think. And then I thought about the alien thing too, the same way. And I was like, oh, I wonder if they're coinciding. Like, are they waking us up kind of so that when we have these experiences, we're more ready for them? Right. Because if I wasn't Scotty the medium first, I don't know that Scott Davis could have handled what I witnessed this weekend. Scotty the medium had some perspective. Like, there's other stuff, right? So like I didn't completely break, but what an experience, man. Whew.
We have a link up to Scotty, so you can follow him on Facebook.
Ooh,
He's on the YouTubes. He's on the TikTokies. He's on everything. You'll find him everywhere.
Yeah.
And very popular content provider. Always has things to share, insights to give. An amazing man, a great friend. Scotty, thank you again for doing this and being a part of the show.
Man, thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me talk and get this out. Very cathartic to talk about it with friends.
We'll talk to you again soon. Hopefully, Sarah will be joining us again in the near future for us to do what we love to do together.
Yes.
All right.
Can't wait.
Thank you. Yeah, that'll be great. And thank you all for tuning in. You know, there are nights that are meant to entertain, nights that can frighten us. And every once in a while, a night comes along that reminds us why we started having these conversations in the first place. Because the unexplained doesn't care what you do for a living and how skeptical you are, how observant you've been trained to be, or whether you're ready for it. Sometimes it simply finds you. Scotty, I know sharing an experience like this opens you up to scrutiny, speculation, and 1,000 opinions from people who weren't standing there with you. So thank you for trusting me and our darklings with your story. Somewhere out there, another person has experienced something equally impossible and is kept quiet because they're afraid of what people will think. Tonight, they heard a law enforcement officer say, "It happened to me." And sometimes knowing you're not alone is the first answer that matters. Darklings, rate and review this episode. Share tonight's episode. Keep your eyes open and your gaze to the skies. And apparently, you never know when the unexplained might decide, tag, you're next. Until next time, may the darkness of this world be just a little brighter with the information that we share here on our Paranormal 60.